Just ahead on American Black Journal, I'll talk with the new owner of Aretha Franklin's former Detroit home about his plans for the historic property. Plus, the Detroit neighborhood gets a new option for early childhood education. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
For nearly 100 years, Ally has been a part of Detroit, and we give back by volunteering and donating in our community. We have a commitment to diversity and increasing economic mobility in our hometown. At Ally, we're dedicated to doing it right every single day.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. My first guest made headlines when he purchased Aretha Franklin's only remaining Detroit home for $300,000. The historic mansion is located on Hamilton Road near 7 Mile, next to the Detroit Golf Club. The Queen of Soul originally bought the 6,200 square foot house in 1993. However, it's sat vacant for the past 10 years and will require a pretty major renovation to restore its original beauty. Joining me now is the new owner of the home, Anthony Kellum of Michigan-based Kellum Mortgage. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so that's a really cool thing to have done. You bought one of Aretha Franklin's homes. Talk to me about how you became interested in the house, and talk to me about what it felt like to buy a piece of her history.
Wow, it's an amazing feeling. It really was, to walk the property, see the property. It was just surreal, you know, seeing all our items, and it took me back to my childhood. My mom was a tremendous Aretha Franklin fan.
Yeah.
Listened to the music all the time on Saturdays, on the weekends, in the probably early 70s, and you know, she's passed, so I just had a warm connection there. Oddly enough, being in the house, I just felt kind of the Queen of Soul's presence, and the property reminded me of her struggles and always landed on her feet. You know, she was always, she fall down, but she always got up, and she got up in a big way, you know, so speaks a lot to Detroit, what we're doing here in the Renaissance of Detroit.
I feel like more than anybody else, more than any other famous person here, she really embodied that Detroit idea of they can knock you down, but you will always get back up.
Absolutely.
And get up bigger than you were before. I mean, she always did that.
Absolutely. So she would just land, I mean, just at the apex, and it was great. It was somewhat emotional walking through it, and glad I had an opportunity to purchase it, and thought about my own journey in the real estate market. It's been highs and lows, and you know,
right.
so you say
Cyclical,
real estate,
right?
and I compared them to, you know, hey, you know, she did it. She stayed faithful and persevered. So can the rest of us.
So tell me about the house itself. What kind of house is it? It's a big house, 6,500 square feet.
Yeah, it's a beautiful 6,200 square foot Tudor, 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms. Just a gorgeous architect. They were building them back then, man, like no other,
right?
No other, you know. So we want to maintain a lot of the aesthetic beauty to the property, implement a little bit of touches of Aretha, and also modernize it a little bit, just enough, blend it just enough where it makes sense, you know.
Yeah. What are your plans for the house? I mean, is this a place you're going to live? Is this going to be an historic site that people can come see? What's
That's a great question.
idea?
So, as you know, the golf outing is coming in June.
We have a big golf tournament coming to Detroit. That's
Absolutely, and I would like to have the house ready for that, to show the world where she lived, and to show the world the work that we put into it.
Yeah.
You know, but the plan is to sell it to a worthy family. That can appreciate the history and the value. And the Detroit Golf Club is just an amazing community. The golf course do a great job over there. It's just a beautiful property, beautiful area, beautiful people.
Yeah, I was going to say that area is undergoing its own change right now, a sort of rebound.
Absolutely.
From the crash of the last decade. people are buying those houses. Families are moving into those houses.
It's nice
again.
to see. As a guy like me that's in the mortgage business, it's nice to see people owning homes and buying homes again. It's so crucial. People have to understand owning property is a very crucial, especially to our community and our neighborhoods. And so I'm glad to see that.
Right. There was recently, someone was talking about this statistic that just now is true in Detroit, that we, for the first time in many, many decades, have more people renting in Detroit than we do owning. And
not good.
In a city where black homeownership in particular is so much a part of the history and so much a part of the building of that black middle class, that's a pretty distressing figure.
Yeah, I was depressing when I got that, when I heard those numbers, and I thought, I have to do my part to get out here and let people know owning a home. My dad told me, hey, when you get out of college, become an adult, buy a house. That's the American dream.
Right.
The American dream is home ownership. So Detroit is doing a lot of wonderful things, and people are into the renting and the condos downtown. And that's a wonderful thing. And but we got to somehow marry our neighborhoods in order to have a strong, sustainable city. We got to have home ownership.
Right.
Got to have people owning, investing in the city, paying property taxes, improving the schools, improving the neighborhoods. I played in the city of Detroit. I had friends, went up and down the street, went to school there, walked to school.
Right.
Not anymore, not so much anymore. So it's very, very important.
Yeah. This house, Aretha Franklin owned a lot of houses around Metro Detroit at different times. Where does this fit into sort of her history? What was going on for her when she bought it? Did she live there?
Yep, she did live in a property, and she named the property the Rawls Estate. So she did an album with Lauryn Hill called the Rawls album, and there's a big rose in the living room there on the floor.
Really?
Doorknobs of rose. So there's something to that rose that was important to her. But all her property was named after something that she was working on, some album or song that she was working on.
And how much of that was left in the property? How much of that is there for you to sort of take care of?
The major piece is the rose and the carpet.
Okay.
Yeah. The wallpapers and things of that nature, we're not going to keep it.
No. A little dated.
Yeah, a little dated, But that rose is special. She has some very unique doorknobs and handles in the house that got the rose accents to them. They're very beautiful. So we like to sprinkle those into the property as well.
Yeah. What's the reason that the property fell into disrepair?
The rumor has it is that, she had a lot going on. And she's been taken advantage by a lot of people.
That's absolutely true.
So I think she relied on people that didn't do their job. I know you're busy. I'm busy. So you rely on certain people to do things for you.
Sure.
And you trust them. And I don't think that they did the job that she expected.
Yeah.
One thing is important, though. I know she had some tax issues there from time to time, but she kept that property.
Yeah.
And it was funny. She's got a real estate book. How I made money in real estate was on the counter.
Right.
So owning property was important to the Queen.
Yeah, yeah. When we talk about that area, the golf course and the houses around that golf course, there's a lot of famous people also who own houses over there. So she was neighbors with lots of other people who were Detroit royalty, I guess you would say.
Well said.
Yeah.
This is true. Detroit royalty lives over there, and you can too.
Yeah. Right? Because you're gonna be selling it.
Jew, right?
Right.
Had to plug that, right?
That's okay. You said that a lot of her belongings were still in the house when you bought it. What are you going to do with all of those?
So they moved, when we did our walkthrough, her furniture, the house was fully furnished, pictures of a lot of Motown greats, magazines and things of different area. But they moved all those things out, but they left her bed, which I thought was odd. I mean, the Queen's bed is there. There's a beautiful sunken bathtub that's there.
Wow.
So we're going to incorporate those. The bed, not so much. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with that.
Yeah.
But it's wild to walk in there and see her bed, the bed she actually slept in.
Yeah. Wow. That is something. Yeah.
It's nice.
Is this something that you do a lot? This idea of interest in historic properties, properties that have connections to Detroit's past?
So On the mortgage side, we've done mortgages for some pretty high-profile people. On the property development side or rehab side, no, not so much. We do a lot of buying houses, fixing them, and selling them to homeowners.
And selling them, yeah.
But really nothing on this scale that we've
Well,
had.
what are you seeing in the market now? I mean, a lot of people are talking about how the city's coming back slower in the neighborhoods than it did downtown and midtown, but that one of the signs is the ability to buy property, fix it up, and sell it to somebody else, you know, and make at least a little bit of money, right?
So that's a phenomenal question. I'm glad you brought that up. You know, we buying property in Detroit, and people from other places around the country are moving here and buying those properties.
They want it, right?
So, you know, I just want people, you know, you drive around, you see an empty house in a nice, strong neighborhood, buy it, fix it, sell it. Don't, you know, that's kind of what we're trying to do. Hey, we'll buy it, fix it, sell it, improve the value of that neighborhood, create home ownerships. We want families walking around, but we entered into the Rosedale Park area and bought property there. You know, you'd be surprised at people that were moving like hotcakes.
Yeah.
But here locally, for some reason, there seems to be a disconnect of what's really going on in our neighborhoods in terms of home ownership. You know, there seems to be a disconnect, and we're just trying to bridge that connect.
Get people to get on board. Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Well, congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
home. I'll want to come check it out during the golf tournament.
Absolutely, done.
This spring.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Just ahead, early childhood learning comes to an East Side Detroit community. But first, we want to continue our look back at this program over the last 50 years. Here's a 1998 American Black Journal conversation with singer Lou Rawls about the musical influences in his life.
Singing didn't just happen, even though you were doing it in the church and you were growing up in Chicago. You were going to the Regency Theater there. You were seeing some of the
Regal
great
Theater, yes.
Yeah, the Regal. I'm sorry, the Regal
Right.
Theater, and seeing some of the great acts there.
Right.
The Ecksteins and the Joe Williamses and folks like that.
Oh, yeah.
Who were some of your earliest dynamic musical influences?
Eckstein, Joe Williams, Al Hibbler. A lot of people don't remember Al Hibbler. Al Hibbler, Arthur Prysock, because they all had the rich baritone voices. Well, I was, you know, baritone. I always had a deep voice, so naturally I would relate to them. And of course, Eckstein with the Mr. B collar was cool. He was sharp as a tack, you know, and that was, oh, buddy, you know. And of course, Nat King Cole, I mean, come on, he was the man. He was the man. Eckstein, Joe Williams was singing with Count Basie's band. Well, that, you know, and then we got to see all the different vocal groups. That's how the group thing started in our community growing up as kids. You know, we had like the Ink Spots, the Dominoes, and, you know, the Moon Glows and the Five Satins, you know, those groups like this, and they were Smooth, the Flamingos. These were some of the guys who grew up with us too, the Flamingos and the Dells. We all lived in that little, what they call melting pot on the south side of Chicago. So these were influences to us. And fortunately, we, you know, we would, when we would go see the show, right? Then we'd go stand out on the corner and doo-wop all night until we had to go home. But that was how the thing started out with us for us. And a lot of us, you know, went on to pursue it as a career. Some didn't, but some of us did. Matter of fact, we, as teenagers, we used to come up here to Detroit and sing at Reverend Franklin's church. That's how we met Aretha. We were all kids then, you know. And everybody watched Sam, because Sam was the first one to make the big move, and said, well, let's see what's going to happen with Sam. Well, you know, he made it big. Then Aretha cut respect, and then the staple singers come along with Pop Staple, you know, and it just, it was like a trend that was starting to happen.
The East Side Detroit neighborhood known as Regent Park is welcoming a new educational opportunity for families of young children. The community has its first Head Start Center for children from birth to age 5. The center is located in the former Tracy McGregor Elementary School and brings much needed early childhood education services to an area that is still heavily populated with children. Joining me now are two of the partners in the project. Roxanne Campbell is Executive Director of United Children and Family Head Start, which operates the center. And Larry Johnson is co-founder of Life Builders, a nonprofit that works to revitalize the Regent Park neighborhood. Thanks to you both for being here.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, Roxanne, I want to start with you. Tell me about Regent Park. This is a part of the city that I don't know that well, and I'm imagining there are some viewers who are not sure where that is either.
Okay, so this is on the Detroit East Side, in zip code 48205.
So the cross streets, Gratiot and maybe what?
It's in the 8 Mile Kelly Road area,
Yeah.
Stephen, and it was formerly heavily populated with police, fire, and teachers.
Copper Canyon.
That's exactly
used to
right,
call it,
right.
yeah.
It was a very prestigious place to live, actually. A lot of people referred to it as the Grosse Pointe of Detroit. We've even talked to residents recently that recently moved that said, we remember it in those days. It was quite a place.
Yeah. And so the idea of this center is to give people who are still living there early education opportunities.
Yes, so we will be providing services to children who are ages birth to 5 for income eligible families who live in that community. So Head Start and early Head Start services.
Yeah. Head Start is something that I think people are familiar with as a phrase. I'm not sure everyone knows exactly what Head Start does or how important it is to kids before they get to school.
Well, Head Start is a comprehensive program, so we're focusing in on cognitive skills for the children, but we're also focusing in on health and nutrition, disability services, mental health services, and we're working with the families. We recognize the parent as the child's first teacher, and so we know how important it is that we work with the family, that we engage the families in order for us to have positive outcomes for the children.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about Head Start is that it is not just about a child inside of a family. It's about that family and trying to get the supports that you need to get that child ready for kindergarten.
Yes,
Yeah.
kindergarten readiness.
Yeah. Talk to me about what's going on in this neighborhood, this part of the city.
You know, we were particularly excited when Roxanne came and took that first tour the day that she came out with a social impact funder, IFF, who was bringing resources from Kresge and other places, looking for a place that was on the rise in Detroit to locate one of their first early childhood education centers under this new initiative here in the state of Michigan. So when they came out, we'd been in the community for 13 years. When we first moved in, Regent Park, or that 48205 zip code, Stephen, was known as Detroit's most dangerous zip code.
Yeah, the most murders in the city each year take place in 48205.
You know, and I think perhaps the impact of this new center was probably, I was reminded of its impact just a couple days ago when some people came to take a tour of our community, because lots of people like to see like what's happened, in Regent Park that now there's getting so much recognition. Well, we were sitting in the parking lot with all the cars that were parked there. The lights were on at the Early Childhood Education Center, the playfield that we repurposed with a grant from Kresge. And I was sitting there with these folks. I was so overwhelmed with thankfulness to think that 13 years ago, the grass was 2 feet high, was selling drugs all over. There was an abandoned school there that had just sat there, which was, it reminded everybody of what used to be there, and then it turned into all these negative things. And now you look at this, and it's the epicenter of the community. It's the talk of Regent Park. It's hope. It's life.
Yeah. What are you encountering with the folks there in Regent Park in terms of their enthusiasm about this Head Start program?
The families are very enthused because they have the opportunity to be able to provide services and bring their kids, both the infants and toddlers and the preschoolers, to one location. And so that's very important that they have that continuity and that continuum of care. That can be very challenging for a family when they have to take a infant and toddler to one location, then have to take the preschooler to another
somewhere
location,
else, right.
someplace else. Yeah, and then you got to pick them both up. And so the families are very excited, and they're very pleased that we have opened up the Regent Park facility.
Yeah. These other improvements around the school, is that something you feel like you can build on and sort of keep spreading around in that area?
Really do. When we first started, we started working from Kelly Road west in the community. And our vision long term was this whole block, which was the park and the abandoned school. So now with this, developed, it has become the epicenter of the community. It's the talk of the community. So now as we continue to rehab homes and bring life to those abandoned properties, et cetera, we're up to 50, by the way, now.
50 homes.
Stephen, 2 apartment buildings, 50 homes, active youth programs, which complement very much what Roxanne brings to our community. She's 0 to 4. We are K up through 12. So it's great collaborative effort to serve families in our community.
Yeah, yeah. When we talk about the city and the things that are going on in the city, and we talk about neighborhoods, I think a lot of times areas like this get skipped over because it's not, it's not central. It's not a place that everybody is familiar with. But it does sound like there are some things going on there that we might learn to apply in some other places. This idea, first, of creating quality educational options for people. As someone who's raising his kids in the city, I know that's just not something we have in most places. And that as a start for other things, I think is one of the things that's really important about what you guys are doing. Once you have that, it becomes easier to talk about, well, should we get how do we get families to live here? Well, we've got this great center, Head Start Center. That's a big incentive.
We are so grateful for that very reason, because it has really put the whole community on the map. It's like we're telling the families in the community, you matter. This community is going to make it. Things are happening here.
Yeah. Are there other communities in Detroit where you are looking at maybe doing the same thing?
Yes, but it is just a little slight challenge in terms of trying to find facilities and trying to find community partners that you can work with. And so we were very excited with the opportunity that we had to work with Life Builders to open up this center, and then some of the other options that they have in terms of a community center, which will provide resources for our families. And so we try to have locations where there's a community that's on the rise, and that the families have opportunities to sort of like, do some one-stop shopping in that neighborhood.
Yeah. You said you've done 50 homes in that neighborhood. Talk about the impact of that on the community. The idea that you've got 50 homes redone and I imagine sold to families. That changes the whole outlook, I would imagine.
It really does. When we first came, there was this encroaching blight that had just spread, and with the red blood gang operating in the community, et cetera, there was a lot of despair and hopelessness. So as we took these homes on, every 3 months or so, you'd get a comment from the community that, wow, what's happening here, And then they would say, well, Life Builders is doing 2 more here, and they're doing 2 more here. Where blinds used to be closed and people never used to take a walk, and they'd stay in their homes. Now they can take a walk, they can be outside. The kids can play in the park. You can plan events in the park now. It's a very exciting time, but I will tell you, Stephen, and Roxanne knows this as well, it has been really hard work.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think also we don't acknowledge enough, is that this is the hardest work, I think, in the city, is taking neighborhoods that have been disinvested in and left to sort of deteriorate and turn them around. And it does take human investment. It's not just investment in houses or schools or things like that. It is creating opportunity for the people who live there, which is exactly what you're trying to do. Is the work that you're doing in that community something that you can see sort of moving over to some other places? There's lots of places that need it.
Oh, Stephen, that's a question we've been asked.
I would imagine
many
people are
times.
maybe eager to get you out other places, right?
The first time we were asked this, about 5 years ago, we were at a conference somewhere, and this doctor and his wife raised their hand and said, why don't you do this somewhere else? And I said, are you crazy?
I've got my hands full.
We've got our hands full right now. But if we can serve the city of Detroit and other neighborhoods in some way with whatever we're doing. Maybe this collaboration with the two of us, we can take it to, to other communities
Other
going
places.
forward with this model. How exciting would that be?
Yeah, that would be really great. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the work, and thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can go to AmericanBlackJournal.org to get more information on our guests and check out a calendar of upcoming events. And you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
As American Black Journal looks ahead at the next 50 years, we want to hear from you, the viewers. Tell us what you think of this program and what you'd like to see on future episodes. Visit AmericanBlackJournal.org to take a quick survey and share your opinion. Thank you.